The wind carries your scent long before your feet disturb the earth. I have watched you from the shadows, your kind pressing deeper into lands otherwise untouched. Some come as seekers, whispering respect to the old ways. Others come as takers, carving their will into bark and soil. Which are you? I am the whisper in the reeds, the eyes in the canopy, the talon that strikes when balance is threatened. I am an animal lord, a guardian of the untamed, and you have stepped into my domain. But fear not. Yet, if you wish to understand my kind, then listen well, for our ways are older than kings and deeper than the roots of the mountains. Welcome to Riddle and Rule. Today we're diving into the lore and the stats and how to run an animal lord, which was not originally in the 2014 Monster Manual, but is a high CR creature that has been around since the first edition of D&D, an immortal celestial guardian of the wild. These beings are powerful protectors of their respective animal species, blending divine magic with the instincts of nature itself. So whether you're a dungeon master looking to introduce a new enigmatic force to your game, or a player facing one of these things, this spotlight will equip you with everything you need to know. First, what is an animal lord? Animal lords are powerful celestials from the beast lands, another plane of existence altogether. They often take the form of a humanoid animal hybrid or an idealized giant version of their respective creatures. They are rarely seen on the material plane, but when they do appear, it's typically to combat an environmental crisis or to protect the creatures that they serve. What we see in this excerpt from the Monster Manual is that these animal lords take on three primary categories. One, they could be a forager lord. These represent creatures like bears and bees and rabbits. They use charm and temporary hit points to protect allies and deter foes. There are also hunter lords embodying predators such as wolves, hawks, and sharks, and they instill fear in enemies and mark them for the kill. And lastly, there are sage lords. These represent animals known for wisdom, such as owls and turtles and elephants. They bewilder enemies and impose psychic damage through their presence. Each of these categories allows for a wide variety of unique encounters, offering different themes and interactions based on the chosen type of animal lord. There's a pretty extensive set of roll tables or combinations that you can use to create your animal lord. And so for the purposes of this video, I'm going to dive into some of the stats that these creatures use, but when I get into my practical section of how I would run one as a dungeon master, instead of giving one particular type of interaction or theme or campaign, I'm just going to do a couple different ways that you can use them, because these are so vast and so wide. I don't want to pigeonhole us down into just one way to use them, and instead I'm just going to give a couple different threads that you could then expand on and try to figure out if you would want to do. So, for that matter, how to use an animal lord in your game. One, you could use them as a mysterious guardian, so more of an NPC, more of a social interaction. Animal lords are not just combat encounters. They can serve as enigmatic figures. They could be used to test the party's intentions or offer cryptic guidance as well. A cat lord may speak in riddles, while a wolf lord may judge the party's strengths before offering aid. They're going to have different ways to measure and test the party. Additionally, their otherworldly presence can make them intriguing figures to roleplay. Imagine an eagle lord perched atop a cliff, watching silently as the party approaches, only to finally speak after an offering of respect is made. Next, you could use them as a villainous foe. This could be your big bad. You could do some type of nature-themed campaign. And if the party is involved in harming nature, whether they knew that or not, an animal lord would intervene. Their lordly presence ability makes them terrifying on the battlefield, and after this section I'm gonna go into all the specifics of the stat block that you could use, but then you can use this creature to cause fear and charm and confusion just by being near. To make them even more compelling as your antagonist, consider their perspective that they may not see themselves as villains, but rather as protectors of balance, and the party has disturbed that balance. An owl lord could view the expansion of a human settlement as a threat to the knowledge and wisdom of the wild, while if you want to do more of an oceanic nautical theme, a shark lord might see the overfishing of an area as an existential crisis. Lastly, you could use the Animal Lord as a powerful ally. Should the party earn an Animal Lord's trust, they could gain access to their spells like Awaken, and they could end up getting an animal that they've had alongside them upped in its abilities and its intelligence. Or they may be in need of healing, and this ally could provide their greater restoration. Or even in their legendary actions in dire moments. Imagine a Stag Lord bestowing temporary hit points to the party before a major battle, or in the middle of one where they need it. Additionally, an Animal Lord could grant unique boons. A Raven Lord might give a character the ability to cast Speak with Animals at will, while a Serpent Lord could offer resistance to poison, either temporarily or permanently as a gift. These gifts make Animal Lords feel like a true force of nature that extends beyond a single encounter. If you're going to use them as a powerful ally, it might even be a great way to do it right before the combat with the big evil creature of your campaign, that as the party's maybe rallying to try to gear up and get as many buffs and benefits as they can going in, having some way for them to establish a relationship with an Animal Lord and giving them some form of benefit for that would be a great lane for them as well. So let's jump into the stat blocks now and see what these creatures are working with. So like I said in the intro of this video, these creatures are not to be messed with. They are a challenge rating 20, so they're either going to be a very imposing and intimidating NPC or a very late game combat encounter, because they should not be fighting alone. These should be with waves of creatures and spirits that the Animal Lord is summoning to its side as well. We're talking about a very epic showdown. Their armor class is 19, their initiative rolls get a plus 19, and their hit points on average are 323. They have a 60-foot speed, a 60-foot fly speed with hover, and a 60-foot swim speed, so movement around any form of nature environment is not a problem for them at all. And also, all of their stats are respectable. They have a plus 7 strength mod, plus 7 dex, plus 5 con, plus 4 intelligence, plus 6 wisdom, plus 6 charisma. They get a plus 12 to their wisdom saving throws, and a plus 11 to their constitution saving throws. These are borderline gods in the D&D world. They are extremely powerful. They have a lot of traits to work with, some of them only active depending on their category that they're in, so I will walk through those here. They all have Animal Lordship. An Animal Lord represents a Forager, Hunter, or a Sage, which determines certain traits in their stat block. Then they get 4 legendary resistances a day. If they fail a saving throw, they can choose to succeed. 4 of those is frustrating and an insane amount for a party to have to try to burn through. Next, they get Lordly Presence, the Wisdom saving throw DC 20. Any enemy that starts its turn within a 30-foot emanation originating from the Animal Lord, with a failure taking on a different effect based on its category. So if it's in the Forager category, the target is charmed until the end of its next turn, and while charmed, it is incapacitated. If it is a Hunter category, that creature is frightened until the end of its next turn, and if it is a Sage, it will take 3d6 psychic damage and is magically bewildered until the end of its next turn, and while bewildered, the target subtracts a d4 from its saving throws. Lastly, for its traits, it has advantage on saving throws against spells and other magical effects. It has that magic resistance. So with 4 legendary resistances and magic resistance, all of our spellcasters are going to have a tough time with these creatures. It's not going to be an easy fight until they can burn through those resistances, but then very likely not be using saving throw type spells against these things. Let's jump next into the actions. So for the actions, all of them will get multi-attack. We'll get into that. And then there are particular actions that are only able to be used by particular categories of Animal Lord. Let's jump into this. The Animal Lord, for its multi-attack, makes 2 attacks using Rend or Radiant Ray in any combination and uses Animal Spirit. For Rend, it's a melee attack roll to reach of 5 feet plus 13 to hit. And then the damage is 2d6 plus 7 slashing plus 2d6 force damage. That's huge. 2 of those, it's a ton of damage. Then Radiant Ray is the ranged attack roll plus 12, a 120-foot range, and then deals an average of 20 radiant damage, 4d6 plus 6. So 2 of those, Rend or Radiant Ray, however you want to do that. And then Animal Spirit. The Animal Lord conjures an Animal Spirit that strikes at a creature and then disappears. It's a dex save, DC 20. At 1 creature the Animal Lord can see within 120 feet. On a failure, that creature will take 4d10 plus 6 radiant damage. Then on success, will take half of that damage. And then, depending on the type of category that this Animal Lord is, there's an additional effect. And that additional effects are Forager. The Animal Lord gains 20 temporary hit points. Hunter is marked as prey. The Animal Lord has advantage on attack rolls against the target until the start of the Animal Lord's next turn. So you would use this at the beginning of your turn as the Animal Lord on somebody and then use your multi-attack. Or lastly for Sage, Pesky Swarm. The target has disadvantage on attack rolls and ability checks until the end of its next turn. There's already a lot of CC, crowd control type stuff that this Animal Lord can do different ways to debuff other enemies that it has on the field. Very dynamic combat, loving that. So after those, it also has some spell casting. The Animal Lord casts one of the following spells requiring no components and using Wisdom as a spellcasting ability with a spell save DC of 20. They can cast Animal Friendship, Animal Messenger, Speak with Animals, twice a day, Awaken or Greater Restoration, and then once a day, Animal Shapes or Sunburst. Then lastly, a bonus action before we get into its legendary actions. It can shapeshift, and it can shapeshift into a huge or smaller version of the animal it represents, or a medium or small humanoid, or it returns to its true form. Its game stats other than its size are the same in each form, and any equipment it's wearing isn't transformed. Lastly, its legendary actions. It gets 3 and can use these like any other legendary action immediately after another creature's turn. And then it regains uses of that at the start of its turn. Feral Strike, the Animal Lord moves up to its speed without provoking opportunity attacks, and it makes a rend attack, or it can use its Radiant Strike. And it can do that 3 times in between rounds, between its turn. That Feral Strike is huge because its movement speed is 60 feet. This thing is able to get pretty much entirely across your combat space, depending on how large you're making it, just with those legendary actions. Let's talk about how to bring the Animal Lord to life. When role-playing an Animal Lord, emphasize their divine and enigmatic nature. They may speak in a measured, almost otherworldly tone, or display animalistic habits like grooming themselves mid-conversation. To further immerse your players, consider how they communicate. Some might only speak telepathically, while others might only vocalize in growls or chirps, with their meaning being felt rather than heard. Also think about their personality traits. A Fox Lord may be playful and mischievous, while a Bear Lord could be stoic and slow to anger, but fearsome when provoked. And then like I said earlier, I'm going to give 5 different adventure hooks that you can then expand on and think about to involve an Animal Lord in your campaign. First, the Silent Forest. A once thriving woodland has become eerily quiet. Animals have fled. The local druid believes an Animal Lord has fallen sick or been cursed, and the party must seek out the afflicted lord and either cure them or defeat the source of their corruption. Second, the hunt begins. A group of powerful hunters is tracking an Animal Lord for its supposed magical pelt or fangs. The party must decide whether to aid in the hunt, hoping to get some of the rewards themselves, or ultimately decide to protect the Lord and risk angering the powerful nobles backing that expedition. Nature's Bargain. A village encroaching on a sacred grove has drawn the ire of a boar lord, who has sent their minions to drive the people away. Can the party broker peace, or will they be forced to choose a side? The last of its kind. A once mighty Animal Lord has begun to fade, its species dwindling due to poaching and destruction of their habitat. It seeks a final champion to carry its spirit forward in a new form. The Celestial Trials. An Animal Lord challenges the party to a series of trials testing their strength, their wisdom, and unity before bestowing a rare gift or knowledge upon them. I think any of those 5 ways would be really cool and useful ways to bring in what the Animal Lord represents into any campaign that is then going to use one and have the party interact with one. Animal Lords are fascinating additions to any D&D campaign, offering rich storytelling potential, deadly combat encounters, and a deep connection to the natural world. Whether they serve as guardians, adversaries, or guides, their presence can transform an ordinary adventure into a legendary tale. How will you introduce them into your game? Please let us know in the comments. Let's go.